Welcome back, guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about a Leetcode question that I really like. It's called Best Time to Buy and Sell Stock 3. So there's actually 3 versions of this question, and it progressively gets harder and harder. And I want to talk about the hardest one, but if you guys do want to see a video of the first and second one, let me know. Just a disclaimer, there are many solutions to this. This is just my way of implementing it, which I really like. So the question is, you are given an array prices where price is I, it's the price of a given stock on the ith day. Find the maximum profit you can achieve. You may complete at most 2 transactions. Note, you may not engage in multiple transactions simultaneously, so you must sell a stock before you buy again. Now this may seem a little tricky if you haven't tried the first 2. I'm using the function I implemented for buy and sell stock 1, and I'm using it to solve this question. So in the first version of the question, we just find the biggest profit in 1 transaction. So that's what I'm going to do first. So yeah, let me just write that as step 1. Find the largest profit in 1 transaction. I'm going to have a helper function for this. Now we're going to have 3 different cases for this. So the first case is no profit. This is when the biggest profit is 0. So that means, you can't actually make any profit off this, and you have to return 0. So this is my second scenario. The next big profit is before or after the biggest profit transaction. So once we get our biggest profit, what we do is we look before that, and then we look at the interval after that, and then we try to find the biggest profit in those 2. So here's the example I'm going to use. This is the array 1, 2, 0, 4. And you know that the index represents the time and the value of that index represents the stock price. So you can actually visualize this by drawing it into a graph. So I just labeled them just to make it a little bit easier to understand. So you can see that the biggest profit that you can get is 0 to 4. So this entire area right here will give you the biggest profit of 4. Now the next biggest profit is going to be from the interval 0 to 1, where you have the biggest profit of 1. So we know that the biggest profit is going to be 4 plus 1 is equal to 5 within 2 transactions. So the way we could actually implement this is once we get that biggest profit, we can find the interval that creates this biggest profit. So in the helper function, we could return the actual intervals that give us the biggest profit rather than just returning the biggest profit, right? So in this case, we have 2 and 3. What we can do then is run that same profit helper function for the interval 0 and 2. And if you had more numbers here, you can do 3 to here. And then you just take the max on the left and the right. Finally, this is a tricky one. The biggest profit transaction can be broken down into 2 transactions. Now this might be confusing at first, but let me draw it out so that you can actually understand it. So this is the example input, and let's draw this onto a graph. So our example is 0314. And you know that the biggest profit that you're going to get in 1 transaction is going to be when you get from 0 all the way to 4. Because this is going to give you a max profit of 4 in 1 transaction. Now, you're going to see that either you can go left or you can go right, or you probably can, but the biggest profit that you can get can be broken down into these 2 sub-transactions. So this one has a profit of 3, this one also has a profit of 3. So then you know 3 plus 3 is equal to 6, which is a much bigger profit. Now this is a little bit hard to implement efficiently. How are we going to find those small sub-transactions? Are you going to check every single one using brute force? The trick is actually to find the biggest loss in that transaction. So it's going to be from here to here, and you can see the biggest loss is 2. So the biggest profit you can get in at most 2 transactions is taking the biggest profit you can get in 1 transaction and then adding the loss inside that. So 4 plus 2 is going to equal 6 also. And this works because even though you're at 0.3 and then you go all the way down to 0.1, since you know that you're in between the interval of the biggest profit, you're going to have to go back up to 3 eventually, right? So if you think about it, you're going to have this profit here, so 1 in this case, and you're going to have the biggest profit here, so 3 in this case. And we get to add up that profit we made from coming back up from that loss, which is going to be 2. You can definitely have multiple losses, but for 2 transactions, what you're going to need to do is just find that biggest loss. So sometimes you're going to have cases of all 3. You're going to have the max and min here. You're going to have a big loss in between, and you're going to have profit to the right, and you're going to have profit to the left. So what you do is you take the max of these 3 values. So you take the max loss, the max profit to the right, take the max profit to the left, and you're going to take the max of these 3 values, and you're going to add it to that initial profit of that big transaction. And if you do that, you would get the biggest profit that you can get in 2 transactions. So my solution was in Python, and when I submitted, the runtime was faster than 98% of the Python solutions. Even though I explained my strategy, there's multiple different ways of doing this, but this is how I did it. So we obviously have our base case here. If the prices array is empty, just return 0. So what I did was I made a helper function called profit. And what it does is it gives you the biggest profit that you can get in one transaction. And it just returns the max profit in the first item of that array, and then the left and right indexes. So I can actually extract that profit by getting first 0, just like that. This is where I look at that first case. So what I do is if there's no profit inside, that first 2 value right here is going to be -1. So it would just return 0 here because there's no profit. And what I do next is I use profit to find the biggest profit in one transaction of the left and right subarray of that big interval. So I have another helper function called loss, and it's very similar to profit, but it just finds the biggest loss in one transaction. So I'm going to get the loss of that middle interval, and I'm going to multiply by -1 since it's negative to make it positive again. And I can extract the profit of the left and right by taking that first index of each array, and I have that mid loss that we have. So if I do profit plus the max of these 3 values, I should get the right answer. If you want to take a look at the entire code implementation, I'll have the link in the description below. Thank you guys again so much for watching. If you do want to see me do more Leetcode solutions, just let me know in the comments below and I'll have it up. Bye.